from all over the United States except Hawaii. We're going to go now to Redlands, California for our next caller. Go ahead, please.
All of a sudden, we have a screen. We don't do the ear thing. We had a screen that said, the next call, Washington, D.C. In those days, people were spending a lot of money on long-distance calls, so if I saw a local call, I would not be in that big a hurry.
Hello.
And Susan Swain, she was at that time a producer, she just typed on the screen, take the call now.
Go ahead, please.
Hello, is this Mr. Brian Lamb?
Yes, it is.
Would you hold one moment, please, for the president?
Mr. Lamb and students, I just came upstairs to the study here and turned on the set, and there you were. And I watched long enough to hear several questions that showed your concern about the exclusionary rule.
It was great because we were trying to get attention for the fact that we existed. And the President of the United States had called this network, which, by the way, has never happened since.
I come from the California School for the Deaf, and I would like to ask you a question. Is that okay?
Yes.
And I thought to myself, this is it. We just crossed the finish line.
Ford. Gerald Ford.
Is it Gerald Ford? No.
Eileen is all right now.
Well, she could have been disfigured for life, right?
The U.S. government has been involved in what officials here in Washington describe as a full-court press to find the Shah a new home.
When we started in 1979, there was no cable in Washington, D.C.
Mr. Speaker, on this historic day, the House of Representatives opens its proceedings for the first time to televised coverage.
This should have been on television from the very beginning. It should be completely open. They're spending our money, and as we know, they're spending money now we don't have, $22 trillion plus dollars. And people still don't pay attention. When we came along, it changed a lot of things in people's minds because for the first time, people could listen to somebody make a speech from beginning to end. It was incredible. It was as exciting to us then as Twitter and Snapchat and all this stuff is today to the younger people. There's a connection between what freshman members of Congress did back in the early days of C-SPAN and today's Twitter.
Those people who are watching this debate on cable or through C-SPAN must find a sort of Alice in Wonderland quality about the whole discussion.
And Newt Gingrich was very much familiar with technology. He recognized that this was a platform that he could get and speak, and he started a process of just standing at the microphone every day. Now, he told me one day, he said, well, I'll tell you, interestingly enough, when it got to 1981, what I was doing more than anything is I was talking every afternoon when I got on the floor to the Ronald Reagan White House.
It does turn out, in fact, that there is a worldwide effort by the Soviet Union, that there is a very great likelihood that the KGB embassy detachment in Nicaragua is involved in Central America.
That was the time when Tip O'Neill was Speaker of the House, and the Conservative Opportunity Society was getting up every day and beating up on him and making Tip O'Neill mad. And we don't control the cameras. And he turned to his broadcasting chief and said, turn the camera so everybody can see who's here.
The Ethics Committee, I must say, did a thorough job of looking into the incident.
And of course, there never was anybody there but the Speaker.
And it must be said that what they did was drastically limited the scope of the investigation.
I used to go up when I first came to the town in 1966. I'd go up at night and sit up there and listen. They performed on the floor of the House just like they do now. It was much more raucous then. There was much more drinking going on around the House of Representatives then because they weren't on camera. But they also could go to the editing room and change the words on the transcript. We make sure that there is a record there.
We decided against Contra funding because we felt it is against American tradition to fund a private army whose goal is to overthrow another government.
One of the things that we have watched over the last 40 years is that the government is trying all the time to control what you see. And with the new media, and we used to be new media, we're the old timers now, it's getting harder and harder for anybody in government or in Congress or wherever they are to control excess. I know people love to sit outside of the process and say, if we didn't have televisions, cameras in there, we'd be getting a lot more done. These are grown people who have just been selected by voters in the country, and to suggest that we have disrupted their little events there is crazy.
Mr. Speaker,
It's time to take the mask off this institution. It's time to expose the check writing scandal I like to call Rubbergate.
Beam me up. I say it's time for Congress to shove these illegal tactics right up the assets of the IRS.
The greatest thing about living is learning, in my opinion. So we're just part of a big package. This country and the people that live in it need to educate themselves beyond sound bites. And I suspect in most cases it'll never happen.